Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, Text 11. Kvachit Uluka Jhilli Svanavat Atiparusha Rabhasa Atopam Pratyaksham Paroksham Va Ripu Rajakula Nirbhartsitena Ativyathita Karna Moola Hridayah. Kvachit Uluka Jhilli Svanavad Atiparusha Rabhasatopam Pratyaksham Paroksham Va Ripurajakula Nirbhatsitena Ativyathita Karnamola Hridayah. Kvachit, sometimes, Uluka, of the owl, Jhilli, and the cricket, Spanavat, exactly like intolerable sounds. Atiparusha, extremely piercing. Rabhasa, by perseverance. Atopam, agitation. Pratyaksham, directly. Paroksham, indirectly. Va, or Ripu, of enemies. Rajakula, and of government officers. Nirbhartsitena, by chastisement. Ativyathita, very aggrieved. Karnamola Hridayah, whose ear and heart. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies and government servants who use harsh words against him directly or indirectly. At that time, his heart and ears become very saddened. Such chastisement may be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Please repeat. Sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies and government servants who use harsh words against him directly or indirectly. At that time, his heart and ears become very saddened. Such chastisement may be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Purport. There are different types of enemies within this material world. The government chastises one due to not paying income taxes. Such criticism, direct or indirect, saddens one, and sometimes the conditioned soul tries to counteract that chastisement. Unfortunately, he cannot do anything. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So this verse, this chapter, Rahugana asked for clear explanations of the analogical explanation that was given in the previous chapter, where Jadabharat compared the material world to a forest. And this particular verse corresponds directly, I think, to the 5th verse of the previous chapter. Yeah. Adrishya jhilli swanakarna shula ulukavagbhir व्यथितांतरात्मा अपुण्य वृक्षान् श्रयते क्षुधार्दितो मरीचितो यान्यभिधावति क्वचित्. Especially the first two lines is what today's verse subject is. So he just gave a commentary, an explanation on this verse. So that verse runs as: wandering in the forest of the material world, the conditioned soul sometimes hears an invisible cricket making harsh sounds, and his ears become very much aggrieved. Sometimes his heart is pained by the sounds of owls, which are just like the harsh words of his enemies. Sometimes he takes shelter of a tree that has no fruits or flowers. He approaches such a tree due to his strong appetite, and thus he suffers. He would like to acquire water, but he is simply illusioned by a mirage, and he runs after it. So mirage we have already seen in the previous verse in the 14th chapter. Now the owls and the crickets, which are compared to the chastisement of different adhibhautic forces, which can be government or enemies. And enemies means anyone can be one's enemy according to one's sense gratification. 11:23-48. Tam durjayam shatrumasahya vegam aruntudam tन्न vijitya kechit kurvantya sadvigrahamatra martyair mitranyudasena ripun vimudhah. Ripun means enemy. Failing to conquer this irrepressible enemy, the mind, whose urges are intolerable and who torments the heart, many people are completely bewildered and create useless quarrel with others. Thus, they conclude that other people are either their friends, their enemies, or parties indifferent to them. So, enemies and friends and neutral parties, we decide who is our enemy and who is our friend and who is a neutral party based on our sense gratification. Whoever furthers our sense gratification is our friend. Whoever goes against our sense gratification becomes our enemy. And who does not participate in any way in our sense gratification is a neutral party. In that way, we assign and we distinguish. So, enemies, they may say harsh words. Government may say harsh words. So, in the Kali Yuga, especially so, I think 12:140 is this? So the government becomes like this. स्त्रीबालगोद्विजघ्नाश्च परदारधनादृताः उदितास्तमितप्राया अल्पसत्त्वाल्पकायुषः असंस्कृताः क्रियाहीना रजसा तमसावृताः प्रजास्ते भक्षयिष्यन्ति म्लेच्छा राजन्यरूपिणः. These barbarians in the guise of kings, this is Kali Yuga symptoms, these barbarians in the guise of kings will devour the citizenry, murdering innocent women, children, cows, and brahmanas, and coveting the wives and property of other men. They will be erratic in their moods, have little strength of character, and be very short-lived. Indeed, not purified by any Vedic rituals and lacking in the practice of regulative principles, they will be completely covered by the modes of passion and ignorance. Now, this sounds very bad, and we may think sometimes that such time has not come yet, but it has come. Because the way they do it, it doesn't look barbaric. No, here it isn't barbarians. And in our picture, the mental picture of barbarians means, like some medieval savage is what comes to our mind when we say barbarian. Some Stone Age person who did not know how to, cook or something. He's killing the animals and eating. Actually, that is not as savage as what is going on in the modern world in the name of slaughterhouses. Now, slaughterhouses or meat food courts, they may look more polished with nice lighting and interior decoration. They may look more polished with fancy apps, very slick ordering system. Everything is like, it looks more not barbaric. It's more advanced, it's more polished. But the packaging is not to be seen. What is the internal contents of that packaging is to be evaluated. So those so-called Stone Age barbarians, as people would like to say, they are not as savage as modern slaughterhouse maintainers and food chains that are based on meat. Because the barbarian, so-called Stone Age barbarian, he would kill one animal and he will hunt the animal before he kills. Now, they raise them, they breed them, and they slaughter them in a mechanical way. When you go on Little India or Racecourse Road, you can see all restaurants lined up on the side. And, each restaurant has a label there. What kind of cleanliness, A, grade A, B, C, all are A. Inside, all nonsense being cooked, A. So, and some B. Actually, their F also is not good enough. Fail Z or so, but this is how by assigning some language, make something that is not good or worthwhile to be very valuable. The packaging does not only come in the visuals, but also in the nomenclature, how they term it. Livestock industry, something like that. Just put some high sounding words and make some trash look like gold. So that is what will happen. These are barbarians, and here murdering innocent women, children, cows, brahmanas, and coveting the wives and property of other men. Again, we would like to associate with these things with past, some Genghis Khan or some Alexander the Great. Actually, Genghis Khan was not as cruel as they made him out to be. It's a Western propaganda. But anyway, that aside, that's what exactly they're doing. Now you see there are wars everywhere, and there is zero codes of war. Innocent civilians are being killed. Of course, if we see the karma of those people, they are not very innocent because of their past and present killing cows, and that's not innocent. That's innocent in the sense they do not even know what they're doing. They don't know it is wrong. Government's duty is to educate them, but they don't. And of course, it will come back as reaction in the shape of wars, natural disasters, etc. And murdering children, you may think, that's not happening. But again, abortion. On the biggest scale, actually, the children are being murdered. In human species, children are murdered the most. And they say the average age is increasing, but it's not, because the statistics don't take into account aborted children who are dying at age 0. So if you factor in that, the average lifespan may be like 20 years, 30 years maybe. I need to do a calculation with the birth and death and abortion all together. We should calculate. Then it will come to be 20, 30 years. But because we conveniently exclude one huge chunk of the population whom we are killing, therefore numbers look better. So this is all, again, these kind of numbers, they say numbers don't lie. Numbers lie, please. Statisticians know very well how to lie with numbers. Numbers can lie very well. So if you selectively show the data set which you want to show, you can lie with numbers. A classic example, during the pandemic, they say the vaccine efficacy is 95%. You know what was 95% actually? The relative, what is that? There was RRR and ARR, absolute relative reduction and relative reduction. I'm not terming it properly. If you see the absolute, the RRR comes to 95, which is again disputable because all the trials were doctored. That's another thing. The ARR, 0.7% efficacy. That is the actual real data. But 95%. And people do not know how to think critically because they are lied to. All they are fed are lies, and they base their judgments also on lies and think they are true. Maya is very, very perfect in doing this. Maya's way of putting us in what is illusion in Maya? What is the illusion that Maya plays? It is by this deception. Pashyannapina pashyati. You know that word pashyannapina pashyati? That phrase comes quite a couple of times. Seeing but not seeing. What does that mean? You are seeing it, but yet we do not see, because of the deception of language, culture, what become taboo to speak about. Like, for example, another example, Hitler is touted as this worst man in the history, modern history. Yes, he killed, fine. He killed, let's say, according to what they say, of course there are other versions of it. Let's say he killed 6 million, sorry. That's what they say, 6 million Jews, right? Winston Churchill killed 20 million. And yet, in India even, and his biggest murder rate was in India. Biggest chunk of that murders were in India. 20 million. Genocide. And even Indians today quote, oh, Winston Churchill said this. Our stupid Gaurgopal also is doing that. Oh, Winston Churchill said this. Brainless fellow. So why? Because they do not know. Or because people accept Winston Churchill as, some thought leader and okay, quote him. Who is he? Murderer of the first order. Stalin, another 20 million plus. I think 30 million is what. Mao Zedong, 100 million. China. These are the numbers. But Hitler is the worst. Because why? A particular section of the population, the Jews, were hurt, and they are the leaders of the world in everything. So what they want, history is written by the winners of war. So they will write the history and they will want to put forward a narrative. If they say one person is bad because of this, then the other person also should be bad because of the same thing. But no. If some countries wage war, that is, oh, cruel, that is, inhumane. But some other countries wage war, that is fight against terrorism, that's liberating the world. It's just a narrative building. Okay? So because of which we don't see the barbaric nature of people in Kali Yuga. But if we, that's why our method is Shastra Chakshusha. See by the eyes of the lens of the scripture. See through the curtains of Maya that are being, presented, the packaging of Maya, and see the underlying real naked truth. When Maya gives us so-called happiness, that is the packaged suffering. When we are suffering, that is the unpackaged suffering. It is always suffering, but it looks nicer when it is packaged. Which is why we are not aware of the suffering and danger. Just like that verse which we always quote, 1499, 53 and 54, but I'll just go to 54. The deer, with his wife, is enjoying in this garden. So, my dear king, woman who is very attractive in the beginning but in the end very disturbing is exactly like the flower which is attractive in the beginning and detestable at the end. With woman, the living entity is entangled with lusty desires and he enjoys sex just as one enjoys the aroma of a flower. He thus enjoys the life of sense gratification from his tongue to his genitals, and in this way the living entity considers himself very happy in family life. United with his wife, he always remains absorbed in such thoughts. He feels great pleasure in hearing the talks of his wife and children, which are like the sweet humming of bumblebees that collect honey from flower to flower. He forgets that before him is time, which is taking away his lifespan with the passing of day and night. He does not see the gradual diminishing of his life, nor does he care about the superintendent of death who is trying to kill him from behind. Just try to understand this. You are in a precarious position and are threatened from all sides. So this is the commentary on the analogy that was given in the previous verse, which is this. Shudram charam sumanasam sharane mithitva raktam shadam ghriganasam asulubdha karanam agre vrikana sutripo viganaya yantam prishthe mrigam mrigaya lubdha kabana bhinnam. My dear king, please search out that deer who is engaged in eating grass in a very nice flower garden along with his wife. That deer is very much attached to his business and he is enjoying the sweet singing of the bumblebees in his garden. Just try to understand his position. He is unaware that before him is a tiger which is accustomed to living at the cost of another's flesh. Behind the deer is a hunter who is threatening to pierce him with sharp arrows. Thus, the deer's death is imminent. Few things to note. First of all, the bumblebee's sound is like sweet singing. He's enjoying. Whereas today's verse is the painful sound of the owls and crickets. I saw this video of this owl in the night, where this fellow, he was just, actually I was learning a particular knot, how to tie. So in that video, he was camping and there was this owl. He was woken up by the shriek of the owl. When you see an owl making sound, it doesn't look very scary. But in the night, for whatever reason, the shrill voice of the owl is very, very eerie. Yeah, it's very eerie. the hairs on the body will stand up because of fear. It's very eerie. It's intolerable sound. So The crickets, they're also very loud and it's not soothing. But bumblebees humming, it's more soothing. Or some, nightingale or something like that is more soothing. So what we take as soothing is actually covering the real danger, as you can see here in this verse. That is Maya. When it is shrill and when it is, eerie, the danger is more, we are more alert or aware of the danger, or, you know, we are a little bit more on the alert. But when it is like this, we are not. And that is more dangerous than to be alert of the danger, being aware of the danger. So in this way, we assign, oh, this is sweet, this is bitter, this is fine, I can deal with it. So in this way, we classify different things according to our experience, but we fail to recognize that all of these, whether it's the owl or whether it's the nightingale, whether it's the cricket or whether it's the bumblebee, our lifetime is being robbed. Whether we are aware or not, our lifetime is being robbed. And what can we do if we are aware about it? Our lifetime will still be robbed. So what is the use of being aware? Some people are of this philosophy. Anyway, whether I know it or not, I'm going to die. This deer, for example. If he was aware of the danger, he would be in fear and die. If he was not aware of the danger, he is happy with his wife and dies. He will die a happy death if he is unaware. So better be unaware. This is the philosophy of many hedonists. Hedonism is just now, short-sighted happiness. I want happiness now. I don't care. Anyway, we're going to die. While we are here, enjoy. Live life king size. So, this kind of philosophy, Charvak Muni's philosophy, excludes the reality that there is life after death. So, we conveniently create for ourselves a conception of life where only this is there and enjoy while you are here. But then there is life after death. And then this temporary human body, which has the faculty of inquiry and assimilation of knowledge, inquiry about knowledge and assimilation of it, will be lost. And if we go to the animal species, finish. We are not allowed. This chance of going back to Godhead, understanding this whole thing is not allowed. So that's why we are pushed to be aware, and therefore don't waste your life while you're here, and prepare for the next term of the journey. But if we do not tolerate, that's why what is mentioned here. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agama payano nityastam stitikshasva bharata. He's asking us to tolerate. Son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception of sign of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Tolerate them. He did not say tolerate it. Because we only associate tolerance with negative things or distress, or we should tolerate difficult circumstances. What we always miss is to tolerate the pleasant circumstances. What does actually tolerance mean then? Tolerating the difficult situations means, to be, not be too much concerned about it. So if you have to tolerate the pleasures of life as well, what is tolerance then? Tolerance means to not pay too much attention to it. Like whether it's sunny or whether it's raining, we either take an umbrella or walk under the shade or whatever. We just go about our business. We don't take it too seriously. Oh, it is too hot. I don't want to do my work. No, we have to do our work. We have to get on with our business. Those who have responsibilities, they have to do it. There's no choice. So, whether it's raining or sunny, we have to do it. Or whether it's winter, even. We asked, when we went to Russia, we asked the devotees. So, winter, what is the temperature? They said -30. Oh, so do you go to work or everything is closed? No, 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 we have to work. Oh, work from home. No, 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 we have to go to the office. Why? Oh, that's what they want. We have to work from the office. We have to go to the office and work at -30. They have to just go. So, tolerating distress is hard, but tolerating happiness is harder. Because when distress happens, somehow, we may come out of it. Or at least we are aware of, the distressful nature of the world, or we become a little bit more, when somebody dies, for example, smashan vairagya, we become a little bit thinking about, oh, this is waste of time, everything. And after funeral ceremony is over, then back to business again, as usual. So, but for a while, at least there is some short-lived realizations about life. That is also missing in the when there is happiness. That introspection, that deeper thought about life missing, which is what the heavenly planets offer. किं दुष्करैर्नः क्रतुभिस्तपोव्रतैर्दानादिभिर्वा द्युजयेन फल्गुना न यत्र नारायणपादपङ्कज स्मृतिः प्रमुष्टातिशयेन्द्रियोत्सवात्. Indriya Utsavat, festival of the senses. That means unrestricted sense gratification. There are I came to know of something called, what is this called? Orgy. Orgy? O-R-G-Y. Is that how it's pronounced? Unrestricted sexual acts and what? Drinking, alcohol and all drugs, everything. Orgies. There are such things in West. This kind of festivals. Nalakovar and Manigrava were lost in this kind of thing. They were drinking and with girls naked in the lake. Orgy. They were having an orgy. The demigods continue. After performing the very difficult tasks of executing Vedic ritualistic sacrifices, undergoing austerities, observing vows, and giving charity, we have achieved this position as inhabitants of the heavenly planets. But what is the value of this achievement? Here we are certainly very engaged in material sense gratification, and therefore we can hardly remember the lotus feet of Lord Narayana. Indeed, because of our excessive sense gratification, we have almost forgotten his lotus feet. So this is what happens in happiness. Whereas, who are the pious souls mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita? Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu, Jnani. Those who feel something is wrong, who the Artha is heavily distressed materially, he comes to the Lord. The desirer of wealth feels that he is not able to enjoy or he needs some money. He is in distress as well. He comes to the Lord. The inquisitive, he may not be exactly in distress, but mentally he is bothered. Something is wrong with this world. What is it? Something. There has to be a negative aspect only which will prod him to seek the other side. What is on the other? Is there anything else, or is this all? But if he is having Indriya Utsava, festival of the senses, in Telugu we say Pandaga cheskuntunnadu. Means he is having a festival every day of the senses. So if he is like that, then he will never question. Never. For what he will question? Even the wise He is in the, like Sanaka, Sanandana, these Chatur Kumaras or Shukadeva Goswami. They also, they realized when they contacted Krishna's topics, they realized that their happiness is nothing compared to bhakti. So in that, relatively they are in distress in that way. They knew that okay, there is something higher. Again, they are they go to Krishna. But those who are intoxicated with material sense gratification, it's the opposite that happens. So, which is why Kunti Devi said, जन्मैश्वर्य श्रुतश्रीभिरेधमान मदः पुमान् नैवार्हत्यभिधातुं वै त्वामकिञ्चन गोचरम्. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached but only by those who are materially exhausted. Because one who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot address you with sincere feeling. So, if he has these assets of that will give him some material happiness, then he is not going to approach the Lord with sincere feeling. It's the problem. So, these crickets and owls of this material world are good because they will make us realize this is Dukhalayam, Ashashvatam, this is horrible place. Like people, there is this history of Maharaj Anga, where his family life was, fully messed up. His wife was a daughter of death personified, so apparently she was not of a very good character. And the son was horrible, Vena, who was ruthless, killing brahmanas, everything, cows, everything, women. So he tried to chastise his son so much, but he could not correct his son. Eventually, what happened? He took it as Krishna's blessing. So this is actually enemy. What is that? Niti Shastra, Shatru. The wife who speaks unpleasing, what is that? Unpleasant words, and the son who is a debtor, has misbehaved. They are all enemies. There is such a verse, in Niti Shastra. Even a beautiful wife, of course, that is not understood. Beautiful wife is an enemy. Rupavati Bharya Shatru is not understood. That is the packaged Maya. Beautiful enemy. So that because the enemy is because we get attached. The woman is not to be blamed. One's lust is what? Hey. One's lust is what is to be blamed. But with beauty comes our attraction for that. So therefore, Rupavati Bharya Shatru. But that is packaged Maya. But real Maya, like unfiltered, that Maya, like the wife who, what is the verse? Anyway, son better. Ranakarta Pita Shatru. So the father who is a debtor, okay. Father who is a great debtor, he is enemy. Manu Samhita, I think Niti Shastra. And then there is mother. Mata Shatrur Dhicharini? No, I don't think that is correct. Spelling mistake. Dhicharini means what? Something else. Rupavati Bharya Shatru. Putraha Shatrur Apanditaha. Foolish son is an enemy. Rupavati Bharya Shatru. That is different. Anyway. Enemies come in the form of family members also. Vicharaniya. Mother becomes an enemy when she accepts another husband in the presence of children. Today, this is the fact, right? So, children suffer greatly when this happens. They are not brought up in a stable household. So, anyway, all these kinds of enemies are there who make our life miserable. In fact, an enemy who is somewhere far off, he doesn't bother us so much. We are bothered by somebody who is near. Because who is the one who nags? Who is the one who's near? And therefore, Bhagavatam is not, there's no filter in the Bhagavatam. Unfiltered, just tell the naked truth of the material world. Because of which, I think we read the other day, what is that? Jackals. Jackal, wolves, what is that? Wife, children, other relatives are compared to jackals, wolves, lions. Right? So this is the position with enemies who are nearby. And some devotees are of this opinion that this kind of verses which condemn family life should not be spoken by Grihastha devotees. Only those who are renounced, they have some right to speak about this. And those who are in Grihastha, they should not say these things that, oh, the family members are enemies. Every verse is saying like that. I mean, honestly, whether it's a Mukundwala Sutra or Bhagavatam or anywhere. But the point of view is that, oh, if he is saying that they're enemy, then why is he with them? Why he is staying with them? Then he should be away from them. Means he has his lust because of which he is there, and how he can speak then these words. This is wrong, because Grihastha also must speak these things, because this is the truth, and that's how he will also eventually come out and have some vairagya. Otherwise, if he's going to be like the deer, happily with the bumblebees and with his wife deer, then either the tiger or the hunter will kill. So it's not that because I am stuck I should not speak about it. No. When we are preaching, when we are sitting here and talking, we are preaching to ourselves. So everybody must preach. Everybody must preach the same thing. So this is wrong mentality. Anyway, now a different flavor of this verse. Enemies. Sometimes we make the sadhus our enemies. And so Gaur Kishore Das Babaji's life. Sharp words of the sadhu. Because, let's read this because here is the answer actually. Sri Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj always gave beneficial instructions to persons who approached him with faith and humility, no matter what their spiritual status. On one such occasion, a seeker went to Babaji Maharaj to hear topics concerning the Supreme Lord, but he heard some harsh words from him instead. The seeker therefore resolved to never go near Babaji Maharaj again. After some time, however, having been stricken with a distressed and troubled mind, he suddenly returned to see Babaji Maharaj. Till Babaji Maharaj, instantly realizing the reason for his depression, told him, "Oh, you have left the association of devotees where topics about Krishna are discussed, and now you are living in a secluded place and performing solitary worship of Krishna. When one hears the topics of the Supreme Lord in the company of devotees, then one becomes freed from Maya's net of illusion. But if one performs worship of the Lord in a secluded place, not in association with devotees, one becomes caught by the illusory energy. As a consequence, instead of topics about the Supreme Lord possessing the heart, mundane subject matters will occupy it instead. The seeker replied, I thought it better to reside in a secluded place and perform my own individual worship than to become disturbed by hearing the sharp words of a sadhu. Srila Babaji Maharaj replied, please take note that those sadhus who speak sharp words to drive away the witch of the illusory energy are actually the only real devotees of Krishna and friends of the living entities. The conditioned living being experiences the distressful quarreling of his wife, crickets and owls, and close relatives, and is rudely treated by them until death. Yet he never desires to leave their association. On the other hand, he absorbs himself in trying to appease and serve them. But when a devotee of the Lord, who is always desirous of the living entity's ultimate welfare, chides him just once with instructions meant to drive away Maya, then that conditioned entity immediately makes plans to leave the saintly person for his entire life. If you actually want to perform devotional service properly, then you must accept the harsh language of the sadhu as the medicine by which Maya can be given up. By this, one can obtain the necessary spiritual advancement to successfully chant the holy name. The bound souls are prepared to accept unlimited abuse from their family members, but not a single sharp word from the sadhu who attempts to cut their attachment to illusory existence. The materialistic wife and family members induce a man to work like an ass and meanwhile deride him for not fulfilling all of their demands. Yet, while the family may legitimately plunder a man and denounce him bitterly for his shortcomings, the acquiescent victim is not in the least able to tolerate words which might awaken him to the reality of his situation. This is very nicely worded. As they say, what is that? It is easier to fool a person that is, what is that? Than to convince him of the truth. It is easier to fool a person with a lie than to convince him by the truth. Something like that. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur described the power of the sadhu in an essay called Search for Truth as follows. Jai Shri Sri Radha Madan Mohan Jai. Hare Krishna. The curtain you can open one shot. Why so slow? You can open fast. There is no doubt that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in the Search for Truth essay, there is no doubt that the words of the sadhu possess the power of destroying the evil propensities of one's mind. The sadhus in this way benefit everyone who associates with them. There are many things which we do not disclose to the sadhu. The real sadhu makes us speak out what we keep concealed in our hearts. He then applies the knife. The very word sadhu has no meaning other than this. He stands in front of the block with the uplifted sacrificial knife in his hand. The sensuous desires of men are like goats. The sadhu stands there to kill those desires by the merciful stroke of the keen edge of the sacrificial knife in the form of unpleasant language. If the sadhu turns into my flatterer, then he does me harm. He becomes my enemy. If he gives us flattery, then we are led to the road that brings us enjoyment, but no real well-being. So we have to understand from this the benediction, that is the sharp words. Now, regarding sharp words of the family members of all this, you see here, I think 4.3.19. तथारिभिर्न व्यथते शिली मुखैः शेतेर्दितांगो हृदयेन दूयता स्वानां यथा वक्रधियां दुरुक्तिभिर् Divanisham tapyati marma taditah. Dhyanisham. What is that? Dhyanisham tapyati. Lord Shiva continued, if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative. For such grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. And Uddhava asks this question because the Lord tells like this. क्षिप्तो वमानितो सद्भिः प्रलब्धो सूयितोऽथवा ताडितः सन्निरुद्धो वा वृत्त्या वा परिहापितः निष्ठुतो मूत्रितो वाग्ञैर्बहुधैवं प्रकम्पितः श्रेयस्कामः कृच्छ्रगत आत्मनात्मानमुद्धरेत्. Even though neglected, insulted, ridiculed, or envied by bad men, or even though repeatedly agitated by being beaten, tied up, or deprived of one's occupation, spat upon, or polluted with urine by ignorant people, one who desires the highest goal in life should, in spite of all these difficulties, use his intelligence to keep himself safe on the spiritual platform. Okay? We have to be this tolerant. Now, Uddhava asks, Yathaivan anubadhyeyam vadano vadatam vara. O best of all speakers, Uddhava said, please explain to me how I may properly understand this. Sudushaham imam manya atmanya sad atikramam vidushamapi vishvatman prakritir hi baliyasi rite tvad dharma niratan Shantamste charanalayan. O soul of the universe, the conditioning of one's personality in material life is very strong, and therefore it is very difficult even for learned men to tolerate the offenses committed against them by ignorant people. Only your devotees who are fixed in your loving service and who have achieved peace by residing at your lotus feet are able to tolerate such offenses. So then, the Lord speaks. So the Lord replies like this. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Barhaspatya Sanastyatra Sadhur Vaidurjane Ritaihi Duraktair Bhinnam Atmanam Yah Samadhatum Ishvaraha. Lord Sri Krishna said, O disciple of Brihaspati, there is virtually no saintly man in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized men. In the previous verse, Krishna said we have to be so tolerant. But here he's saying there is virtually no saintly man. I mean, forget about ordinary men. There is virtually no saintly man in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized men. The next, Natatha tapyate viddha puman banaistu marmagaihi yatha tudanti marmastha hi asatam parusheshavaha. Sharp arrows which pierce one's chest and reach the heart do not cause as much suffering as the arrows of harsh, insulting words that become lodged within the heart when spoken by uncivilized men. So this is owls and crickets. But if we see, Maya is so powerful that we tolerate this kind of behavior from one's own family members, and we will never leave them. Yet, when sadhu speaks harsh words, then we immediately leave. And one may associate sadhu as being this smiley man, smiley face, with a beard, mala, orange cloth, smiley face, like this. That is not sadhu. That is not sadhu. Huh? What? So, sharp words. Actually, why sadhu does not want to insult people? He does not want to insult people. But why do people then find his words harsh? Because it attacks their sense gratificatory instincts or tendencies, proclivities. So it attacks that. As we have seen in the beginning of the chapter, the class, 11:23:48, how we classify people as our friends, enemies, or indifferent parties according to who furthers our sense gratification and who does not. So, because the sadhu's words do not encourage our sense gratificatory tendencies, and because we're addicted to sense gratification, we find his words harsh. But actually, Prabhupada explained that when a sadhu uses harsh words, it is like the exorcist who may shout at the haunted person, but he's actually not angry at the person. He's asking the ghost to get out from that person. So similarly, the sadhu, he by his harsh language, actually it's truth. It's not harsh, it's truth. When we are living in a lie, truth sounds painful. Truth hurts when we want to live a lie. So he's actually speaking just the truth. But because pasyanapina pashyati, we cannot see it, we find it harsh. So that is the explanation why sadhu's words are harsh. It is not harsh. It is truth, but we are in the kingdom of lies. So therefore, we find it painful. But we consider him an enemy just because he spoke like that. If we desire our well-being, then we should welcome chastisement. It is said, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, Tulya Ninda Stutir Mauni, that one has to be equal in insult and praise. But here, Krishna is saying that even the saintly person cannot be unsettled when he hears harsh words. And anyone will feel good when he is praised. But when Advaita Acharya was being praised by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he hated it. He said, no, you are not being kind to me. Because such language will be used for persons who are not so near. Who are cordial relations are, done with people who are a little far. But with family members, we are honest with our emotions. We may show our anger, we may show our happiness or whatever, honestly. So just by treating me cordially, you are actually being my enemy. So he did something to get chastised. And when he got chastised, he was happy. Now, there is another thing to chastisement or to seemingly harsh words. योऽसौ मया विदित तत्त्वदृशा सभायां क्षिप्तो दुरुक्तिविशिखैर्विगणय्य तन्माम् अर्वाक्पतन्तमर्हत्तमनिन्दयापाद् दृष्ट्यार्द्रया स भगवान् स्वकृतेन तुष्येत्. 4:7-15. This is Daksha Prajapati. After being chastised by Lord Shiva, he was repenting and glorifying Lord Shiva like this. I did not know your full glories. For this reason, I threw arrows of sharp words at you in the open assembly, although you did not take them into account. I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are the most respectable personality, but you took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding punishment. I request that you be pleased by your own mercy, since I cannot satisfy you by my words. It's a very beautiful way to accept chastisement. Of course, after he was thoroughly beaten and humiliated, but better late than never. Better sooner than later, but better late than never. Later than never. So he was saying, I was going down to hell because of my disobedience to you, who are most respectable personality, but you took compassion upon me and saved me by awarding punishment. Now Prabhupada explains this. As usual, a devotee in an adverse condition of life accepts such a condition to be the mercy of the Lord. Factually, the insulting words used by Daksha against Lord Shiva were enough to have him thrown perpetually into a hellish life. But Lord Shiva, being kind toward him, awarded him punishment to neutralize the offense. King Daksha realized this and, feeling obliged for Lord Shiva's magnanimous behavior, wanted to show his gratitude. You know, this principle is that I'm unable to find that quotation where if one becomes angry with the person who insulted one, then that person is absolved of his offense. Whereas if one tolerates, then he will receive the full wrath, okay, especially in the case of devotees. The devotee may excuse the offense done to him, but the Lord will not excuse. Like Ambrish Maharaj excused Durvasa Muni. He did not even think of excusing. He thought he is the offender. He thought he personally was the offender to Durvasa Muni by not receiving him properly. And what happened? Sudarshan Chakra went after him. The Lord's full wrath was on full display. But here, what Daksha is saying is that by my insulting words, I would have dived straight down to hell. But by being angry at me and punishing me, you have neutralized the offense. It was your mercy that you have chastised me. You have punished me, saving me from the hellish life. So, we know this verse. Tattenukampam susamikshmano bhunjana evatmakritam vipakam hridvagva purubhir vidadhan namaste jivetayo muktipade sadaya bhak. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Of course, in the purport it is said, it is explained that devotee takes all reversals in life as a token punishment of the Lord. So, especially when we offend a Vaishnava, that is the worst thing you can ever do in the entire universe. That's the worst thing, worst of all offenses. So, Daksha did that to Lord Shiva. What happened? He said, I was supposed to go to hell straight. But by punishing me, you saved. So you see how they are taking punishment, how they are taking chastisement. We should learn how to take chastisement. Here is where we fail usually. We do not know how to take chastisement. But we are very willing to take the chastisement of Maya in the shape of family members who will be the most owl-like and cricket-like. A frog croaking halfway across the globe will not hurt you, will not be disturbing, but the frog with the near will disturb you, right? So, similarly, if people who are far off may not be painful to us. People who are near will cause us more pain. In fact, that is how karma also works. When I'm a debtor, when I'm a rini to someone, next life I will have to pay back in the form of being a parent to that child, where my whole life I have to spend. And if the child is, say, retard, even more, no? I have to pay back. How much energy? Lifetime of energy is gone. Pay back. So, who were my enemies, I will be forced to sometimes serve them. So Krishna, he has his ways how Maya will always chastise us. For example, if a son or a father is a debtor, like what is that? Rini karta, pita shatruho. If a son has a father who is a debtor and now the son has to pay, that he is an enemy. That means previous life he was an enemy, now he came to give trouble. Or I was his enemy and now he came to give trouble in this way. Affection, when we are affectionate to something or someone, that gives us more trouble than somebody who are not so affectionate towards. Right. So it is always two-sided. When we are affectionate to someone, that will cause us more pain when we lose it. Or we are obliged. We cannot escape from those, responsibilities or such pains that come with it, concomitant miseries that come with being born in a certain situation, in a certain family. You are born into a situation. So this is, we have to be realizing. So because sadhu sangha, we take it as optional. That is our problem. And family life, family, we take it as base. Our stronghold. What is that called? Mandatory. We take it as mandate. Whereas sadhu sangha is optional. Because anyway, I'm not related to this person, I can go away or come as I like. But with family member, I have to stay. If he or she is like, troublesome, I have to still stay. What can I do? But we don't think like that with devotees. Oh, even it is painful or not, let me stay with it. Of course, we're not talking about absolute abuse, like where it happened. Yeah, abuse in the sense there have been unspeakable things that happened with child molestation, child abuse, and so that is, of course, have to be completely condemned and punished. That fellow has to be sent to jail and punished to the core. But smaller things, and it's not just tolerance, it is about taking it in the right spirit and learning from that experience. When you tolerate winter or summer season, you're not learning anything. You're just tolerating and then not paying attention to it and focusing on your duty. But I should also not just tolerate, but take it to make it advantageous for myself. That is the art we must develop. Here we can see, because these verses all will be only as left as verses. When it comes to the application, far away, these verses will never come to mind. Yeah, these words are good, but he did this to me. What is the meaning of Sadhu Shastra Guru? We have to control our mind with these words. We have to understand, oh, this is how it is. See, King Daksha realized this, that Lord Shiva. So, in other words, sometimes sadhu is accused. For example, he is offended and he gets angry. Hey, how come sadhu is getting angry? What is this? But we do not see, a person can operate from many platforms. A person who is just materialistic, he will act from the platform of sense gratification. He will retaliate because of personal, anger on personal accord. Sadhu may sometimes react. Like in the case of Jada Bharat, he reacted by preaching. It is mentioned in the Bhagavad, in the few verses before, that he was affected by the strong words of Rahugan. What he did with that slight unsettling that happened with him, he preached to him and showed compassion. Sometimes they may curse, or they may use harsh words like this to retaliate. Sadhu may retaliate. How are we to understand then? Why sadhu must be tolerant? He is not tolerant. He is not sadhu. But here, Lord Shiva, of course, he did not react on his personal thing. He reacted because of his wife being killed, and she is a devotee, and he had to. But still, by reacting, Daksha is saying, you have reduced the suffering that I have otherwise have to undergo for what I did to you. So when a devotee reacts or retaliates, especially when he himself is properly situated, and to correct that person, he may retaliate. For example, once, there are many examples. Once Prabhupada was walking, and I think Brahmananda Swami or somebody, was talking with Prabhupada as if like, friend, talking all sorts of things. Prabhupada tolerated for a while, and after some time, he stopped. He was walking with his walking stick, right? So he stopped and then swung the walking stick to his face. Don't use the spiritual master. Immediately, retaliated. That's a retaliation. You can always, Prabhupada could always like, tolerant. No, but to correct the disciple is the duty of the spiritual master, and he has to do that. And he did that. Other times also, when they were trying to ask him, um, how when you were ordered by your guru, don't go very speedily. How did you become the spiritual master of the movement? He said, when my Guru Maharaj ordered me. When did he order you? How did the order come? That is none of your business. Don't go very speedily. Stay within your limits, inquire within your limits. Yeah? So he retaliated. That is actually mercy. Enlightening us with knowledge, at the same time, curbing our, mentality of, impudence. Sannikarshotram anadarana karanam. (1084-31), first two lines. What is that? Familiarity breeds contempt. So, familiarity and contempt, it may come. Impudence, audacity. So, these have to be curbed. So, in order to correct, there may be chastisement. So, immediately we should not take as enemies, oh, this is owl, this is cricket, and then we leave the place, leave the association of devotees. We have to accept that as the blessing, and when we can do that, that is when we will really advance. Sometimes some devotees ask like this, new devotees, sometimes they ask, what is your favorite pastime of the Lord? As if I am somewhere, Gopi Bhav somewhere. So I say my favorite pastime is this kind of pastime, where the Lord punishes, chastises, nicely. Now, this is my favorite pastime. Because in our current state, that is what we need. And not our current state always. Guru more murkho dekhi karilo sashan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, means whoever. प्रभु को है सुनो श्रीपाद इहार कारण गुरु मोरे मूर्खो देखी करिलो शासन. My dear sir, kindly hear the reason. My spiritual master considered me a fool and therefore he chastised me. Of course, नूनं त्वकृत पुण्यास्ते भृत्या येष्वीश्वराः शुभे कृतागः आत्मसात् कृत्वा शिक्षा दंडम न युञ्जते. When a master accepts a servant as his own man but does not punish him for his offenses, the servant must be considered unfortunate. Paramonugraho dando. Parama anugraha danda. Danda means punishment. Parama anugraha. It is the greatest blessing. Bhrityeshu prabhunarpitaha balo na veda tattanya bandhu krityam mamarshanaha. When a master chastises his servant, the servant should accept this as great mercy. One who becomes angry must be very foolish not to know that such is the duty of his friend. So this is what, friend. So in material aspect, this owls, crickets are cited here to compare to the enemies and the government, which is undesirable situation. But we have to know whom we should classify as enemies. And sometimes we may even consider devotees as enemies. So this is where we have to be careful and not consider them like owls and crickets, but take it as a mercy and then actually correcting ourselves. Then we will be safe, very safe. in spiritual life. So, any questions or comments on this topic? Anything to add?
Tolerate Arjuna before being pleased by Krishna, he was also ready to tolerate like going to Himalayas and not. We are also tolerating so many office politics, working late nights. So tolerate in the Pravritti mark is not good, and tolerate in Nivritti mark is austerity. That means we have to tolerate for pleasing Lord.
Excellent point. Yes. So, for those who are online who cannot hear it, so the point was, in the material sense, we do tolerate, right? Even our families or office. And what is the other example you said? Arjuna. So Arjuna also was willing to tolerate the aggressions of his family members in order to seek peace. So they were such tolerance is actually a weakness of the heart. So he was saying, I mean, Parshuram Prabhu is saying that tolerance in Pravritti Marga and tolerance in actually Pravritti Marga also is, that is not Pravritti Marga. Pravritti Marga means regulated sense gratification is Pravritti Marga. Sense gratification is not Pravritti Marga. Regulated sense gratification is Pravritti Marga. But Nivritti Marga is in the renunciation. So, materialistic tolerance and spiritual tolerance. It's a nice point. Because as the Gaur Kishore Das Babaji's story shows, that one is tolerating all the pains of one's family and never leaving them, but he is unable to tolerate one single word from the sadhu. So, where tolerance, in fact, this verse, 335, yeah. Narakasthopi deham vai napumam styaktumichhati narakyam nirvritau satyam devamaya vimohitah. 335. The conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own particular species of life while deluded by the covering influence of the illusory energy. While deluded by the covering influence of the illusory energy, he feels little inclined to cast off his body. Even when in hell, for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment. What does it mean? Even in the most painful situation, the conditioned soul does not want to come out of a situation. He wants to, there is hardly any inclination to cast off his body. Even in hell, he wants to delight in hellish enjoyment. So, this adaptability of ourself, we can adapt anywhere. If the situation forces us, then we are forced to adapt, right? We have nothing, we have no choice. So we are anyway tolerating. We are tolerating birth and death and birth and death. We are tolerating that. How painful that is. We are tolerating. But coming to spiritual life, I cannot tolerate. One thing is I cannot tolerate. One thing, this I cannot tolerate. So we have to tolerate in this life, spiritual life. In fact, Arjuna was tolerating materially. Krishna said this is nonsense. We should tolerate when we are doing our duty. Our duty must be done. And in the course of performing one's duty, one has to tolerate everything else. Duty is in Krishna consciousness. Prescribed duty. But if I tolerate on the basis of sense gratification and give up my duty as a result, then I'm tolerating on the wrong principle. My, what is that? The attention where I'm supposed to give attention, I'm not giving. Where I'm not supposed to give, I'm giving attention there. So tolerance on the wrong principle. Safeguarding our sense gratification or safeguarding our duty. We need to evaluate. So duty should be the thing, not our sense gratification.
Also tolerated respecting members. Tattvavit also. That's why he was teaching them that.
He did not preach until he met Rahugana.
First he
He was just tolerating and then going around. But with Rahugana, somehow by the Lord's arrangement, he was unsettled. But that is more or less a way of the Lord using him as an instrument to benefit others. Because if the king, Rahugana, becomes a devotee, the whole kingdom becomes devotee. Because he will guide them. Just like Parikshit Maharaj, he was unnecessarily disturbed by thirst. I mean, he is a pure devotee, he can tolerate so many things, but he was unnecessarily almost disturbed by thirst. And because of which he got angry at a Shamika Rishi who was meditating and did not receive him properly. And he threw one dead snake on his neck. And because of that, he was, cursed. But that became an instrument by which the Bhagavatam was spoken, and today we can discuss. If Parikshit Maharaj did not get intense thirst on that day, today we will not be having Bhagavatam. Not exactly. The Lord has his ways of doing things, either this way or that way, but he employs the devotee in the drama of bringing it out. So they become instruments of the Lord, and thus they are glorified. So,
continuation to that. So material tolerance, spiritual tolerance. Just now we were discussing that we could be able to tolerate the material tolerance like birth and death and all we are forgetting because it's covered up by Maya. So like that, why not spiritual tolerance also will be covered up always so that we can continue when that will come.
So that is Yogamaya, where just like material, suppose if a thief robs my wallet, I'll call police. But if the wife robs, yes, darling, So it is the same thing, but I feel because I'm covered by Maya, same thing is happening. Wallet is going away from me, money is going out. But of Maya, I consider one as enemy, one as. If one is covered by Yoga Maya, spiritual strength, then when one is chastised, like Advaita Acharya, he was happy. But when we are in Maya, that will seem intolerable. And for one who is in Yoga Maya, material thing will be intolerable. Like, what is this? And why I want to serve Krishna. So every time he is bothered by the reversals of life, he immediately thinks, this, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, this world is not for any sane gentleman. Only insane people will be comfortable in this world. So when one is influenced by Yoga Maya, that means when he is spiritually properly situated, then he will take chastisement as blessing and as happiness. Like even Bhagavatam words, which say that, harsh words about family life. A person who is attached to family life will find them very rude and insensitive and, very, all this crude, very not polished language. I mean, who will speak like that? But for the one who is renounced or who understands renunciation is the real thing, for him, he enjoys those same words. He enjoys. And he laughs about it, in fact. So, it depends where our attachment is. Maya's job is to convince us that don't go to the sadhu. Because sadhu sangha can wipe out our material life. So, Maya is too eager to keep us here. Actually, Maya is not too eager to keep us here. Maya wants to test us. Even if we have slight tinge of material sense gratification, okay, you don't go and disturb Krishna, you stay here with me. Here is sadhu, no, don't go there. He is a rascal, come with me. So she will convince you, and it is reverse psychology. I mean, how much I am willing to not listen to that and be in the association of sadhu. That's what matters. That is how I'll advance. Once we are completely, determined to stay in the association of sadhus, then then Maya cannot touch. Then Maya have lost her grip over the conditioned soul. Hmm. Who? Duryodhan. Hmm.
It became a blessing.
Huh?
Chastisement of Duryodhana became a blessing for
No, what were you saying?
and he made an opportunity out of it. Was he then started with pilgrimage, started renouncing the life.
Hmm. So yes, so the question was, I mean, the comment was of Vidura, who was chastised by Duryodhan, and he was upset, but he left and went to pilgrimage. So he made a good opportunity out of the chastisement. So that's the thing. Um, he was seemingly intolerant, but it is waste of time spending time with. What is the point? That's why even for grihasthas, they are advised to go pilgrimage as much as possible and hear the sadhus to get solace from the material life. But they go to sadhus for blessing so that their material life will continue even more nicely. That's when they find the sadhus to be, real sadhus to be painful. So, any other questions or topics? What is this? Humbly request you to chastise and how you took that as a lesson and implemented. Give us one example how you were chastised and how you took that as a lesson. How many other times I'm listening to this lesson, I'm not able to follow because of my conditioning. I mean, there are so many instances. How many instances can we even quote? Many times, not even rightfully so. There was no mistake, but still chastised. Those things also happen. So, we need to know how to navigate these things easily with tolerance. Of course, it will be at that moment, it will be a little bit, it will grip you. But again, we have to use our intelligence to think about all these things and not pay too much attention to smaller things. I mean, I always give the example also my first day in the temple room where I was chastised for not being able to sweep properly. Sundar Gopal Prabhu chastised me nicely. So, shouted like anything. You go back to your mother. Why do you come here? What is the use? You're 19 years old and you're a shameless fellow. You don't even know how to sweep the floor. What is the use of your studies? I mean, we're not used to being spoken to like that. So, and I cried. I cried that day. But not because he said like that. I was just feeling that I'm useless. I can't even do a simple thing. Yeah. Not because he shouted. He said I deserve this because I was I want to be I was thinking I was very happy because I just joined the temple and I want to serve Krishna and then next day morning Mangalarti after sweeping floor. Then I was thinking, oh, if I cannot even do this, what service I can do? So it's good. So we need to take that as the blessing. I mean, there's so many instances. This is too many. I lost count. I lost. But that's how. I mean, my brother Rajagishwar Prabhu. He just joined the temple, and then he was doing the book distribution seva. He used to go out. We used to stand under the hot sun for like 7 to 8 hours, distribute books. So I think about a week or so later, he came to Prabhu and said, every day he would come, Prabhu will ask what happened, whom you met, any interesting people, any interested people. So, so sometimes there are interesting people, sometimes there are interested people. So then, so that kind of talk was going on. And one day he said, Prabhu, is it okay if we split 4 hours one person, 4 hours another person? Because, my legs are aching. Invited, unnecessarily invited. And Prabhu said, huh? You cannot stand. Young man, you cannot stand. Huh? What is the use of you being a man? Why you come to the temple? Why do you come here? Go and hide behind your mother's sari. That's a line he got. After that, Gupchup did 8 hours every day. And he became one of the best book distributors. So that's how it works. I think Venugopal Prabhu has a lot of stories of chastisement. So, so in this way we have to understand. And you see, as much as it grips us at the time, right, and it consumes us, after the incident is finished and we process it, we can easily laugh about it. But if we take it too seriously, then we're making a fool out of ourselves. Because after some years, you look back at an incident, it's very trivial, and I made a big deal out of it, and made a mockery out of myself, and brought about so much suffering to myself by taking it in the wrong spirit. Even if a devotee throws one out, one should beg his way back in. Once one of the devotees, who's no more here though, he himself left now, but when he was here, he was telling me, he was senior, so he was telling me that once he has this phobia that, to go out on book distribution, but once he gets started, he's comfortable. But to start, he has this phobia, what will people say, but they used to go door to door. Every day he used to have this phobia. But then once he starts, and then he's okay, once the ball gets rolling. So one day he just wanted to give it a miss. And at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m., he was still in the temple room. In the temple. Prabhu saw, why are you still here? Why didn't you go out? No, I think today I want to take rest. Rest? Okay. Get your bags, go out. Throw him out. Now, a person who has ego, big, gigantic ego, he will say, oh, how can you say? See, Prabhu kicked me out. Prabhu kicked me out. But what does that? If you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to many, like Mukunda Datta, many devotees, he said, I don't want to see him in a million years. Ask him to get out. Of course, Chota Haridas, he committed suicide. Even after committing suicide, he said, very good. Very good. So that is one thing. But Mukunda Datta, he was chastised by the Lord. And he was banished by the Lord because he was associating with all kinds of people, materialistic Mayavadis. Then the devotees were asking, they took pity on him. They asked the Lord, when are you going to see him? When will you see? After millions of years, I will see him. Okay? Then the devotees told Mukunda, the Lord said he will only see after millions of years. Mukunda was very happy. The Lord said he will see me, right? That's it. So when the Lord came to know, then he immediately invited Mukunda Datta to come and finish. So the anger of the Lord or the anger of the devotees, we need to know how to take it. What they really mean when they say something. The literal meaning of the word, if you take and then go out, oh, the Lord asked me to get out. Oh, sorry. Not Lord. What is that? Devotee asked me to get out. Why he would say that? So to instill some kind of guilt or something. But if I say, if I don't have any guilt, shame, no shame, nothing, just, oh, he said like that. I make more offense on top of that. And that is a problem. But even if we are chastised to get out, and even then we have to beg our way back in. And not just beg and like a thick skin do the same nonsense again. Correct ourselves. That is what it actually means. Correct ourselves. I think there is some agenda-driven question here, which I will avoid. Thank you very much. Granthara Srivan Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gauр Premanand. Hari Hari.